Hey guys, I am Ibigandscary and I'm bringing you another StarCraft 2 replay. This should be game 2 in the series between RoxkisTITAN and AcerNerchio. Again, both players are playing their respective race. Protoss in the bottom left, top right you have AcerNerchio playing the Blue Zerg. The map is Antigua Shipyard. Larger map than we had in the last game. Medium-sized choke with that supply depot on the bottom of the ramp. Easy to take natural right behind that ramp with a larger choke leading down to the common ground. Third is actually up a ramp with some destructible debris down on the south side. It's pretty easy to take, but it's vulnerable because of those debris. You also have a double jump for any Reapers, or I guess Colossus can also take advantage of that, though I've never seen that happen. And some smoke to hide any drop play or aggression from that angle. In the last game we saw some excellent micro out of both players as well as some significant macro, and so I'm hoping that this is a more macro style play. Large maps tend to favor that, but we'll see if either player begins to rely more on cheese, as it was rather even last time. Roxas throws down a pylon on the lower ground. It appears that he's going to try for a Forge Fast Expand again, just like he did last time. It's common on maps with a large rush distance that Forge allows him to get out a single photon cannon and hold back any early Zergling aggression. It's very effective, and it's very common because we see that no gas has been grabbed so far for Roxas, and he's almost at 18 supply. Forge goes down and the probe immediately returns to work. He doesn't have enough gas to throw down that Nexus, but that's probably what's coming next. A probe comes up to scout. We see the spawning pool down with a gas already up and mining. For him, he's going to know that that early tech's coming out. That early tech is probably going to be Zergling speed, which will really help him mitigate the large rush distance between the two bases. An Overlord's going to come up and scout that absolutely nothing has happened inside this main base besides mining. The direction that Overlord is taking is probably going to make it so it's hard for him to scout this expansion, but because there's nothing up here, he's going to think that either some proxy play is happening or that Forge Fast Expand, which is more likely, especially at this level of play. You can see the Nexus is grabbed, a photon cannon's coming down. Its placement makes it so that one force field right here or a pylon can really protect it, forcing those Zerglings to take a far more far more backwards route, basically, to it. A gateway also coming up. AcerNerchio is grabbing a hatchery. Right after that spawning pool begins the Zergling speed. We can see all the drones have been pulled off of gas, which again is totally naturally just the way to play this matchup. You get that gas a little early, and then you have plenty of minerals left to hurl out as many Zerglings as you possibly can. We can see the 4 coming in, push back that probe all the way back to the main, but that probe is going to take refuge at that photon cannon. Unfortunately, it tries to mine at the farthest away mineral patch, and so they do go down to those Zergling, which are holding position away from the Nexus. They don't want to start taking damage from the photon cannon, but trying to get a couple cheap shots off on that. Cybernetics Core is going up to complete that wall off, just to make sure that even if a Baneling bust does come and take down that pylon, they can't have a straightaway path into the main. They'll have to go through a Cyber Core. Those Zerglings beat a hasty retreat as we see a third is going down for Nerchio. It looks like he's going to try that fast maxed roach play, which Danon was talking about just the other day. It's very popular and very effective. I have to admit I've tried it out myself a couple of times, and I'm surprised at how easy it is to hold those thirds. That third expansion with just a couple of units long enough that it makes it totally worth it, even though you're vulnerable for a couple of minutes. Longer than most. We can see a Stalker coming up just to deny any early aggression from these speedlings, and another photon cannon to prevent any sort of run by and punish any units that decide to poke in. Warp Gate coming up, another tech that will help mitigate the long rush distances, and it'll also expedite the usefulness of the Warp Gates. We can see a lot of Zerglings coming in just to poke at that front door. They can get in and kill a couple of these probes while remaining relatively safe from these photon cannons, but after taking a little bit of damage, they decide to do a run by, scout out the main base, take out any probes in the area. They take out 1, 2, but with the Stalker getting into the area and these probes becoming increasingly aware of their presence, I'm sure they're going to turn around and destroy those zerglings after a little while. Only one gas still not being mined, but with 3 expansions up and fully mining, we're going to see Nerchio pop into full-on macro mode. I wouldn't be surprised to see a Roach Warren go down, as we can see another gas is being grabbed. If he's trying to do that full-on Roach play, we're going to see 2 more gas be grabbed in short order. Again, each player is of its own mind. He plays the way he wants to play. We can see Titan is grabbing 4 total gateways so that he can get that ground army up. It's improbable that he's trying to do a straight-on ground play. In fact, we can see that 2 stargates are going up right now. So that appears to be the tech that he's chosen. Grabbing 2 more gas, which is going to be absolutely vital in supplying the airplay that he's decided to grab. It's going to be interesting to see if he opts for Void Rays to absolutely decimate any ground army, or Phoenixes. We found that Phoenixes are very, very helpful in preventing a Roach push, which with these 2 extra gas going down and the Roach Warren finishing up, is increasingly, it's becoming likely that that's what Nerchio is heading towards. Evo chamber coming up. It could be that he suspects this airplay and he just wants to get that Evo chamber for upgrades, but it's more likely that he suspects that he's going to need upgrades on his end to prevent any ground play. Spore crawlers are very handy against Phoenixes, though. I have to admit, only a handful can completely guard an expansion from them. Looks like that probe is in position, waiting just for enough money to grab the expansion in this area. And we see a couple of Zerglings once again doing a run by, but because of the positioning of all these units, they have to take such a backwards route to get into the main that they're not going to scout the 2 Phoenixes already out and 2 more on the way. Again, this expansion is just about to get underway. Nerchio is pushing out with a very small army. Oh, excuse me, that was Titan. Titan's pushing out with a very small army. Nerchio, however, has enough resources, is floating enough resources, and is getting a spire that if he decided to actually push, he could do some excellent damage to the front of the base. All of these buildings are rather exposed. With only taking damage from 1 photon cannon, he can take down a forge and 2 gateways. I don't know how cost-effective that would be, because he's got to be afraid of what is actually happening in RoxkisTITAN's main base. And we can see that there are 6 Phoenixes moving out across the base. At the same time, Nerchio is deciding to grab a 4th, just stay ahead of the macro game. At the same time, grabbing a 5th down in the bottom right corner. RoxkisTITAN is grabbing this expansion. He is aware of it. At the same time, the Phoenixes push into that main, take out the Queen, do some damage to the Overlord. We can see the spore crawlers are going up, 3 of them, but the Phoenixes are basically going to have fair game at the entire mineral line. We see that 7 spore crawlers are being built at the multitude of expansions that Nerchio has. He's gonna take a lot of damage to the Overlords from these Phoenixes, but he's not gonna. Basically, it's only Overlords. You can re-macro that in no time. Not a large force of Roaches go down, but enough that they could have done some significant damage if they made it into that 3rd unopposed. They get caught by some well-placed force fields from Titan, forcing the remaining Roaches to fall back. You can see that there is quite a lot of gas being floated by Nerchio, so he's going to be able to answer back by way of air in absolutely no time at all. The real problem he's having is the amount of minerals he has. It's because those drones have gone down to this multitude of aggression from the Phoenixes. You see a lot of Zerglings rushing in with their speed. Only 3 Zealots to answer, and these Zerglings are going to have a field day on the probes in that area. The rocks go down. Titan begins to push in with his ground force, and it meets up with those Phoenixes. It meets some heavy resistance against the Roaches, and the reinforcements from Nerchio are going to continue to stream in. We can see 5 more Roaches on production, but the Zealots have freeway of that probe line as the Stalkers go to work on the Roaches. There's just so many Stalkers, those Roaches are going to go down, and unless resources continue to reinforce that area, then Nerchio is going to lose that expansion. But we can see that 20 Roaches are preparing to pop, and those Stalkers have to back off because these Phoenixes had to move on to a different area. Queens in that area have either fallen back to the protection of spore crawlers or have died from the Phoenix aggression. Even 1 spore crawler isn't enough to hold back all of these phoenixes from doing damage to those overlords that crowd above it. I'm surprised that I haven't seen any air units like corruptors coming out from Nerchio. Maybe he's afraid that Titan's not gonna. That Titan is going to have the APM necessary to micro those phoenixes correctly away from those corruptors. But even just a little bit of pressure to hold them away from a specific given area, and the mobility of the corruptors would really help Nerchio hold back and protect some of his line. You can see a lot of roaches come in, meet up with the force that Nerchio is fielding. A robotics facility's been cranking out some immortals. We can see another one's almost done, and one already went down to the roaches, but an immortal is an excellent tech choice given the pathway that Titan has chosen to go. You can see a robotics facility now getting on the way, and another robotics facility. We can see a robotics bay is getting on the way, and another robotics facility also starting. So some Colossus are definitely going to get started. More Zerglings for more aggression. Phoenixes start poking at the front door, and some Infestors come out. Infestors will really help with that bundle of very weak, relatively weak Phoenixes. Hydralisks also can do some excellent damage to airborne units. You can see those Zerglings come to push in on that front door again. Those 2 photon cannons is not going to be enough to hold off this amount of pure Zerglings. By using the hold position command, the Zerglings can really decimate that probe line. And once they've done a number in that area, they'll move on. These Phoenixes move up as the drones begin to transfer into the other area, but they just miss them. Hydralisks begin to pop. Hydralisks are an excellent answer to that area. Looks like those Zerglings did succeed in going down. He did not succeed in coming up here to scout that robotics bay, which is unfortunate. He's got to know the Colossus are eventually going to get out on the field, as he's been unable to hold Titan in on the 3rd base. Looks like Titan's finally figured out that the 5th has been taken. As those Phoenixes poke up at the 4th, the Void Rays and Immortal composition begins to push down on that 5th. Unfortunately, the saturation at that area is very poor. Pure Hydralisks coming out very slow off of creep and very weak against any unit that can really crank out damage per second, but they'll quickly decimate any airborne units. That expansion succeeds in going down, and the Hydralisks catch the Phoenixes in open air and quickly cut their number in half. Some Zerglings come in to take some damage, and the Hydralisks go to work on the majority of the army. We can see that the supply is 160 to 120, but it's the Harvesters that are really telling the difference. 91 to 63. It really looks like Nerchio is going to be able to re-macro quickly, but he hasn't been able to fully destroy this Protoss Death Ball. He's been able to weaken it several times, but each time when he falls back, he continues to build not units that are wrong, but units that are limited in their capacity to deal damage to the full army. I would have liked to see a more even mix of roaches to hydras in that army. I feel like it would have increased the longevity of that. Those hydras are excellent in dealing damage, but they die so quickly to those colossus. Maybe a suicide overlord into the main base could have spotted out that the enhanced thermal lances are coming out for those colossus, and that they're going to get even more deadly to hydralisks. A lot of corruptors come onto the field with some zerglings. Those corruptors are going to be excellent at dealing damage not only to the void race but also to the colossus. Zealots begin to charge up into the expansion. We only have a single queen with no spine crawlers in that area, so this expansion is going to be in a significant amount of trouble. These corruptors moving up there with a little bit of zergling support, but that's not going to be enough to fully stop that harassment. We do see two hatcheries coming up on the minimap as those zealots go to work on the hatchery. You can see the zealots begin to quickly fall from the zerglings as they focus fire down the hatchery. Don't think they're going to be successful as only one or two are left. Main force is beginning to get finicky at the pure amount of bases that Nerchio has been able to grab. You can see he's grabbing two more. One back in the main area where he already has support structures up. Titan in turn is grabbing his fourth as his main is beginning to get mined out, and the natural is still pretty much in full capacity. Some zerglings running up before the defenses can be positioned. They're definitely going to deny that expansion. You can see the cancel goes down. At the same time, brood lords are being morphed into the main area. Titan thinks that maybe if he takes this expansion, maybe takes down these destructible debris, he'll be able to hold it easily, easier at least. Pushing up into the main common ground, we can see his five Colossus are just absolutely destroying everything on the ground, leaving only a handful of brood lords and some corruptors to do all the damage that needs to happen. But those void rays that have been produced constantly by those two stargates really just does a number on everything in the air, as those brood lords are just quickly diminishing in numbers, and all the corruptors have gone down. All the brood lords quickly fall afterwards, and all the hydralisks are down, and RoxkisTITAN is left with an army size that is absolutely intimidating. He's going to push up completely unopposed into this 5th expansion, and we can see that Nercio's got absolutely nothing as far to answer. This is looking awfully bad as these void rays move up into this expansion. Quite a lot of spine crawlers in the area, as well as spore crawlers, but static defense isn't really going to hold this off. He needs to deny the expansion that Titan is trying to grab right now. Maybe some harassment, keep Titan back on his foot, and find a better answer for the void race than the handful of hydras that he's fielded in the past and the cluster of corruptors that he's currently grabbing. Nercio decides that the difference in economy and the difference in army size is too great for him to come back. I agree that he was in a pretty tight spot, especially with the Voidways finishing off that expansion. That was a great game. I don't know about you guys, but I enjoyed it. It was a little fast-paced. I'm sure I missed some things somewhere, somehow, and I'm sure I'll hear about it in the comment section. But if you have any tips, feel free to mention them. I enjoyed myself. I hope you guys enjoyed it too. I am Ibigandscary signing off.